My topic is, should the use of body cameras and RFID technology be more widespread to prevent civilian-on-civilian crime and police brutality in the US? I believe it should. With advances in RFID technology and the success of police body camera programs, the US government should look towards further funding and implementing this tech throughout its cities, as they provide more truthful accounts in court, been proven effective, and protect officers. Let me provide some context as to why this technology is further needed and why BWCs were first introduced. During the summer of 2014 in Ferguson, an 18-year-old African-American, Michael Brown, was shot by a police officer during the middle of the day and outside the reach of video cameras. The police argued that the 6 shots fired were committed by the police officer in legitimate self-defense as he was attacked. However, witnesses related that, on the contrary, that this was not true. It was this controversial event that fractured the trust between public and police, sparking vigorous debates over the increasing militarization of police forces and their relationship with minorities. As such, the use of body-worn cameras were implemented to promote accountability and transparency in police-civilian interactions. And these programs are encouraged, receiving positive appraisal from the NAACP and the American Civil Liberties Union, who stated that their widespread use has the potential to be a win-win, helping protect the public against police misconduct and at the same time helping protect police against false accusations of abuse. In 2016, the Major Cities Chiefs Association and the MCSA, to determine how police agencies plan to use BWC technology, they conducted a survey. It was discovered that only 18% of agencies considered their body cameras fully operational. About half the agencies surveyed had started or completed pilot programs, and 5% indicated that they didn't intend to implement body cameras at all. BWC and sensory tech programs are effective, and I believe that as many departments necessary should be using them. As I said earlier, body cameras were introduced because of excessive police force and to strengthen the trust between the public and police. This is a major reason as to why BWCs should continue being placed amongst police forces, not only because they're symbolic of the public trust and help curb brutality, but due to their applications in court situations. Human memory is considered unreliable, and there are consequences. This has occurred during the Michael Brown case, as eyewitnesses reported multiple stories. As said in the stimulus material, the historian is a participant. Memory being more of a decision-making process is the cause of eyewitnesses of the same occurrences giving different accounts. See, eyewitness misidentification is responsible for over 70% of wrongful convictions through DNA testing throughout the US. Body camera programs help combat these situations by allowing every criminal situation to be recorded under the officer handling them, meaning that in court there would be a higher chance of hard proof in actual existence to discover the truth. Furthermore, due to the Freedom of Information Act, as the U.S. Department of State writes, any person has the right to ask access to federal agency records or information except to the extent that the records are protected from disclosure, meaning that if there's any dissimilarity in a court matter or complaints, the footage can be easily accessed by both officials and the public. So, according to a Harvard Law Review created in 2015, there are 5,000 misconduct reports filed each year against the police, excessive force complaints making up nearly 1/4, and with close to 10% of those cases having resulted in a civilian fatality. And as recently discovered in a study funded by the Department of Justice, police officers are arrested about 1,100 times a year, or roughly 3 officers charged every day. The alarming statistic about this is that more than 40% of these crimes committed by officers occurred on duty. These numbers are unreasonable. The public should not have to fear their protectors, and in order to curb this behavior, BWCs need to become more widespread. Police body cameras have already gone through a series of studies and tests during their initial period and have been shown to be beneficial, and have result in decreased complaints, reduced unbridled force, and fewer fatalities. This can be contributed to the Hawthorne effect, which says that when observed, our behavior will change. For example, in 2011, researchers at Newcastle University in England posted pictures of a pair of male eyes and the caption, "Cycle Fees, we are watching you," in surrounding areas. After doing so, it was discovered that bike thefts in those areas decreased by 62%. Body cameras cause the same effect, and this is intended. By having crime situations record both the police officers and the civilians, they realize that their actions will be held accountable, and this changes their behavior. This was also seen in a predominant field experiment conducted by the Rialto, California Police Department, a 12-month study that found that when police were equipped with cameras, use of force incidents and citizen complaints against officers were reduced by 50 to 90% respectively. In fact, In Mesa, Arizona, another BWC study also reported similar findings, with use of force complaints decreasing by 75%. However, BWCs do suffer potential drawback in the cost. According to Jennifer L. Doliak of Brookings EDU, Washington, D.C. spent $1 million on cameras and will spend an additional $2 million each year for data storage going forward. And this isn't a small number. However, in the long term, BWCs can help save time and resources, as the stored data is removed after a certain period of time. And according to the data provided by the LVMPD, BWCs actually save over $6,200 per average complaint. Furthermore, due to the Freedom of Information Act and the protection given by these cameras, the programs help create a new trust and bond between the public and police. As said by Chief Newsham of the MPD, the transparency and trust that the community has, knowing your department is recording the interactions, I don't think you can undervalue that, which also helps show the continued support by officials and the police for the use of the technology. In conjunction with police body cameras, the U.S. government should also look towards the idea of using RFID and sensory technology in order to further their approach in accounting for officers and criminals. This is because BWCs can't always be accountable for the locations and actions of police officers, as they could lose the footage, be damaged, or even be muted. RFID technology is already present in modern stores. It works for the use of, like, say, tags, communicating with electronic readers. And the police should also look towards using it for a number of reasons. So currently the police force is already looking at or is using GPS tracking. However, that technology specifically faces issues due to its tracking method and its expense. Like, for example, according to Star Chase president Trevor Fishbach, their GPS car tracker costs $5,000 to be outfitted and $250 per GPS projectile run. This is extensively stressful on department finances, and GPS tracking would have to be used limited in use. While RFID technology, on the other hand, is not only accurate but also cheaper to install and use than GPSs. So, according to AMI, a provider of barcode tracking solutions, active tags only cost about $15 to $20 each. Plus, the cost for active RFID readers, covering about 3,000 square feet, is only $1,250 to $1,500. A city could easily afford to place these readers in locations where crime is rampant or in checkpoints, allowing for regular location readings of officers and where they've been. This also applies to criminals. For example, back in 2012, the Guardian RFID correction system, in partnership with the Hillsborough Sheriff's Office, unveiled the first ever RFID arrestee management system, allowing for real-time tracking of criminals. And as Ken Daly Jr., president of Codex Corp, said, the powerful combination of RFID, mobile, and cloud computing technology streamlines the organization of mass arrest. Another example of the use of RFID or sensory technology in general is DoppelLab, a program created by a group at the MIT Media Lab, which using sensors, collects data throughout a building and can display the location, temperature, and foot traffic of any room, and makes it possible to experience data recorded in the past. The possibilities for tracking and accounting for crime and police officers with RFID and sensory technology paired with BWCs is immense, reaching towards points where privacy almost becomes non-existent. However, as said by Dublon and Paradiso, who also agree on the potential dangers, there are many ways to build safeguards into technology. As long as the police community ensures to continue being transparent with the information they record from BWCs and limit RFID sensors to account for only officers and ensuring their safety, the public should have nothing to fear. By further expanding the use of both of these technologies to cities around the United States, crime and police brutality could see an even major drop-off. Officers and their actions would be accounted for, they would be protected from false claims of abuse, court cases could be resolved faster, and police forces would be considered more transparent. Yeah.
Philip, can you talk a little bit about how your research question evolved in this whole process?
Well, okay, it definitely evolved with the fact that my original research question was going to be about Photoshop and body dysmorphia. But the reason it changed from that, I decided to go, I personally felt that question, I couldn't figure out a proper way to connect it to the stimulus material. So I decided to go with something kind of more tied in, sensory technology as well as body cameras, because in the stimulus article specifically, there was, I believe, yeah, the first article about, not first, second, the one about MIT and DoppelLab, it went on some stuff about privacy and how, like, in an ever-expanding world of technology, you know, there's the dangers of data being recorded and all that stuff. And so I thought, because like body cameras, I feel like what I saw, they help stop crime, they help expose police brutality, but because of that, there's also the danger of privacy issues. So I thought it was a good topic to change my research question too.
Okay, cool.
So
And if you had more time to work on, what additional research would you conduct on this issue?
So when I was researching about the police body cameras specifically, I noticed there was, because the event, like, when I was talking about how it originally got implemented, it was because of the Ferguson and like how Michael Brown got died. And because of that, there's a bunch of debates on like militarization, why police should be wearing body cameras, exposing police brutality, as well as I just got a brain fart, but I'm sorry. Okay. Oh yes, about how there's a new debate about like minorities and how police reacted against minorities. And so when I was researching, I noticed there's a lot of information like what the public thought about body cameras specifically. And I feel like maybe if I had more time or more time to research, I would have decided to write or like talk about more about how minorities, like African Americans specifically, think of body cameras as a thing for police forces.